What's up, guys? This is Mark Tomile from Nemesis Kennels. So, today we're going to go over a little history of how I got into the Dobermans, if you guys don't know. I did a podcast way back in the day when I first started podcasting and kind of wanted to share my little story, but, it was brief and, I wasn't very in tune with the podcasting and how to go about it, what to say and how to say it, and how long it should be. But here, that what I understand is share your story. You can edit it after and things like that. So what I wanted to share with you today was basically from the 1971 to 73, let's say. When I was first introduced to American Doberman. I asked my mom where we got him. Well, actually got her. Her name was Athena. That was our first Doberman. She was a puppy. I guess they got her from probably something like a Craigslist or something like that. I guess someone had puppies and they gave it to my mom. My mom, took it. It was an American. Again, very, very balanced dog. Everyone loved that dog. She was very overprotective of my sister, myself, and my mom. So it was around 73 when my sister was born in October. And my dad, my father, he was just recently getting out of the military after a few years doing his tour in Germany. I know he was stationed in Fort Lewis in Washington, so he was out and about. So when he got back, he found out we had a dog. And the reason why he found out is because when he was back for a while, my mom and dad were spending some time in the back, and I guess they were my dad was a little too close to my mom, or whatever the case may be. It's too far back to remember. But whatever the situation was, the dog felt threatened that my mom was in danger. So she attacked my dad. And ever since then, my dad was not very particular in liking the Doberman Pinscher or any large breed in that matter. So he had us get rid of her. And at this time, we were staying with my grandmother in West Covina while he was inside, while he was, doing his years in the service. So once he got out, my grandparents, gifted my parents their house in Glendora, and we moved out there in 1974, I believe. So at that time, we didn't have a dog. We moved out to Glendora in a cul-de-sac off Mitcham, 333 Mitcham Street. Off Baseline in Grand, if you guys are familiar, right behind Gordon School. It actually became Whitcomb, which was a continuation school. Our house was right adjacent to it. Our backyard, our gate, our fence, over the fence was the school, the school grounds. So we had a big playground. all us kids in the neighborhood, we'd go there, fly kites, play golf even. It was huge. Ride the BMX bikes, go out with our girlfriends or our boyfriends out there and have a little picnic or whatever. But yeah, so that was right there. As we moved in, it was so ironic that when we moved in, my father noticed that our next door neighbor, Don, had a Dobie. His name was Brutus, and he was like one of the biggest and thickest European Dobermans I've seen. Which is he was red and rust, but he had a neck so thick, like an XL bully, big old head. It's now I know. It's very rare, very hard to overfeed your Dobies because they're always running. Maybe he was just built that way. Maybe he was just the pedigree that he was. but he was pretty much tall. He was probably maybe 28, 29 inches to the wither, and then he had nice stature. His ears were standing up. Um, Again, red and rust, but yeah, he was thick. So my dad did not care for that, and we kind of like played it off and had fun with him, um, ever since. Because I was like, man, you can't get away from these Dobies. So going throughout the years, well, let me step back real quick. At probably like 6 months to a year when we first moved to Glendora, my great grandmother, since I was a eldest grandchild, I was kind of spoiled by all my aunts, my uncles, and everyone because I was the number one, right? So everyone treated me like a little baby and stuff, and my aunts used to dress me in dolls, costumes. They used to call me Mr. Magoo because my ears would kind of be out here, but so my great grandmother at the time used to take me to Arizona, where all our family's from, Tucson, um, Gallego family. So if you research the Gallegos, we have the first elementary school built in the 1900s, early, under our name. So my uncle went out there and researched it, and did our heritage and found out and had pictures and everything. And, he was actually going to build, before he passed, he was going to build a little mini Vegas out there in Tucson, Arizona. That was his plan, but he never got a chance to it. But anyway, so my great grandmother knew I loved dogs and kind of missed my Athena. So what she did was she brought me a little Chihuahua from Arizona, and we named her Itzy. So during this time, Itzy, got across the street, made it with another male Chihuahua, had 3 little puppies. We named them Bitsy, Teeny Weeny, and that was my first experience with breeding. Basically, it wasn't really an experience. Itzy was so good. She just, we knew she was pregnant. We didn't know how to whelp. We didn't know any of that at that time. It was back in the 70s, 1974. So, well, a little later than that. Probably was 1978, 1979. She was probably 5, 6 years old. So, she had the puppies. She actually went into the backyard, had the puppies, came back in, told us that she had the puppies. Made us follow her, and then we seen the little puppies. So we brought them in, and we took care of them. We had them. And during this time, my mom went to school for photography. And so she was taking a lot of pictures and doing a lot of, projects and, marketing and, pretty much doing things like that. Taking pictures of the family, doing their face shots, portfolios, because some of my family were actors or actresses or models or whatever. So she took a lot of pictures, especially with at the Arboretum. She took a lot of pictures at the Arboretum in Pasadena. Rose Parade. I mean, she took a whole bunch of things. So at this time, she took a project shot of a puppy chow commercial, branding, marketing. And she took the bag of the kibble. She took our dog, which is Itzy, took one of the puppies and had the little puppy chow right next to him. So she did like a little branding, market, advertising, and it was awesome. She entered it. She never got it back, so I lost that picture. I do have some other pictures of my sister with, our dog Itzy, but that was probably only a few pictures I do have. So that was my experience with that. After Itzy passed, and unfortunately my parents got divorced, my mom wanted another dog in the home. So I think at that time, my dad got a Chow Chow from one of his buddies, and he brought it over. So his name was King, and King was a badass. He was so in tune with me. He was my buddy. I took him everywhere. He actually stayed in the front yard. He would not pass the curb. We lived on a cul-de-sac, so he wouldn't leave the yard, even if he was off leash. So, you know, people would come up, people would drive, mailman, whatever. Right at the edge, he would not leave. Sometimes he wouldn't even leave the porch. So he was a good dog, but he shed a lot. And since he shed a lot, there was hair everywhere. And since we're somewhat allergic to the dogs, my mom was getting sick and, you know, getting their allergies. And, you know, and I was doing a lot of chores, especially picking up all the hair that dog shed. So, had to get rid of him. So, unfortunately, I had to get rid of him. And so my mom went out and got us found a championship, I think golden retriever. Yeah, golden. And her name is Brandy. And she came from I guess a proven mother or father that was a championship frisbee tosser, right? So this dog, even at probably like 4 or 5 months old, would jump like maybe 6 feet tall, 6 feet high. Just jump. That dog would jump. No matter what we did, I'd train her, I'd have her. Since I found out that she loved the frisbee, I started throwing frisbees to her. She loved it. Started throwing little toys. She loved it. But what she really loved to do, since in the corner of her home, on our side of her home, we had almost like a rectangular area run, like a dog run. In one corner, one part of the area, we had a cactus. Not a cactus plant, I'm sorry, a palm. And Brandy used to, whenever the mailman used to come, or anyone around the area, she used to come and bounce off the side of the house onto one side of the wall, of the brick wall of our fence, onto the other brick wall, to the fence, and then down, go around like a figure 8 around the palm tree, and then come back, bounce off the house, hit 2 spots off the wall, come down, do a figure 8. And she would do this like maybe, man, 6, 7, 8 times until she got tired. But as she was doing it, since we had a 6-foot wall that my dad built, every time she would bounce off the 2 points of the wall, her head would be probably about that high off the wall. So you would see her, and people were like, man, we always see your dog bouncing up. We see half of her head over. So they'd get a trip off it. But she was awesome. Again, you know, things happen, which I understand. You know, I was young enough, I didn't understand. I was just thinking my mom, you know, like, how come we can't keep our dogs? What's going on? But unfortunately, as an adult now, we understand that there's situations. It's either you or your pet. You got to eat. They got to eat. You got kids. You got mortgage. You got this. You got that. You got all these different things. And to a lot of people, you know, a pet is somewhat a last priority, right? For me, it's almost like one of my top priorities. If you have a hierarchy list, which everyone should, write the 10 top things that you value the most. And I bet out of those top 10, you probably only do 3, maybe 5 that you worry about. The other 5, the 6 through the 10, you ain't doing because you ain't getting to it, right? So where do you place your pet on that hierarchy list? And this is how you value your life, or your importances to things that matter to you. So again, my pets, my dogs are like my children, so they're always on my top 5, which your probably children's are, you know, on your top 5. So, my mom moved. We were at age that we were out of the house. She had the dog alone. She wasn't willing to take care of him because she's allergic. She only really had the pets for us. So I had a couple friends that wanted to take her and rehome her at probably like 4 years old. She was still young, and they homed her. And Brandy lived with them for the rest of her remaining life, and I think she was up to 12, 13 years old. So, you know, so these are some experiences that I had with the dogs. As I grew older and I had my own place, I believe every person I was with at the time, if we had our own place, had to love dogs, had to love animals. Because when I was young, I had reptiles, I had rabbits, I had hamsters, I had mice, I had snakes, I had turtles, spiders, you name it, I was in it. My mom hated it. I mean, I'd pick up frogs from outside when we'd go play soccer at the pit in Glendora. I'd bring home garden snakes, and they'd get out in the house, and they'd, finally get out of the house and shed, and we'd find. My mom would trip. She'd think they'd be, you know, gonna get into her bed. So anyway, as I grew up, I kind of like was almost looking for someone that, or almost like was lucky enough to have someone that loved animals as much as I did, or maybe more, or maybe a little less, but they did. So luckily and fortunately, we always had some pets. So at one point, with one of my previous relationships, I had a chow, I had a black lab, I had a miniature pinscher, which my mom gave me. One of her friends gave her, and she couldn't keep it at the house, so she gave it to me. His name was Montana. The chow was named I can't think of his name. I think it was there was King, and there was because I had two different chows. There was King and Lion or something like that, because they almost look like a lion, right? So I think my next one was Lion, and then Pepper. I think everyone had a Pepper in their life, but she was my black lab. She was awesome. She was so good. She went everywhere with us, and after 8-9 years in that relationship, unfortunately it didn't work out, and the miniature pinscher went back to Arizona with the original breeder. She was one of our friends that gave it to my mom. Unfortunately, again, out in the desert in Arizona, let the dog out, because Montana was a crazy dog. He would always want to get out and run outside and underneath cars, and you try to get him, he'd bite your hand. He was just a crazy little min pin. So he probably got out, and a coyote got him, and that's how they found him. So unfortunately, he passed that way, and that's kind of sad, but things happen. We tried to home our chow. As you know, chows are a little aggressive, so there wasn't a lot of rescue centers that took chow chows. He was around 6-7 years old, so with him and Pepper was like maybe 9 years old, where my ex was going to, she was renting a room because she was going to law school, and with me, I was leaving. I was moving in with one of my friends in a condo, so she couldn't have pets. So anyway, we had to put him down, unfortunately, and so that was sad. But again, I don't have criticism or ill will on people that are in situations that have to put their dogs down, or have to give them up for a better life. I'd rather you do that than mistreat them, keep them unhealthy, put them in a wrong environment, let them just go, relinquish them to anywhere, streets. That's how we get a lot of rescues. So, sorry, Keshi. So, so I understand that things happen, because I've experienced it, and I understand it. So when I breed and I try to home these dogs, I try to do my best, utmost, research on my new clients in order to home them where I'm looking for their forever home, their only one home to live. Now, as time goes on, where your situation may change, things may happen, and I understand that. And that's why we always ask you to call us first, so we can try to rehome that dog or take him back, to find the perfect home for him. Because sometimes, in your situation, you might just want to get rid of them really quick, and you might really relinquish them to a rescue center or somewhere where they might be put down, and we don't want that. So we'd rather take them back. So jumped a little ahead to my breeding, but throughout that, again, with the relationships I had at that time, we had those dogs. Jump fast forward a year, 2000. I met my best friend and my wife, Felicia, and we started dating for a couple years, and we moved into a place, and the first thing that she did was she went out and rescued a little Jack Russell. And I was so surprised, but I was so happy at the same time. I was like, what the heck are you doing bringing a dog? Because I haven't had a dog in a while. And so when she brought her Irie, we named her Irie because she was just so happy. And Irie in Jamaica or reggae means, like, how do I say, happiness, fruitful, spiritual, some definitions for it, but they always say Irie, man, feeling Irie, man. So we named her Irie, and she was the little love of our life, and she was the best baby that we've had together, that we rescued. Again, it was the only dog that we had. We didn't have any other dogs for a long time, for probably 7-8 years. And we moved a couple places from Pico. Well, first we had her in Ontario, and then we had her in Upland, and then we moved to Vegas to start our own business, carpet and tile, and we had a concrete business out there. So she went with us. We came down. Unfortunately, situations happened, and we had to move back. When we moved back, she came with us. We started working for the city of Los Angeles. At that point, we stayed with my mom for a little bit in Pico, and then she was with us. I built a whole big studio behind her home, and then my mom sold her home. Well, actually, we moved to Montebello before she moved, or before she sold, but we moved to Montebello. We had an apartment out there where they took pets, so we had her there. We both worked for the city of Los Angeles, and then at that time, when I was an inspector, they had some strays, some dogs, that some of the police department came to one of the units, and there were some bait dogs and pit bulls that were fighting. So this one dog was just a stray on the side. So they kind of put her in a little kennel crate, and they had her in a little kennel crate, and I noticed her, and I said, "Hey, whose dog is this?" And they said, "No one's. We got her from the raid. So if no one picks her up, you can have her." I said, "Okay." So I called my mom. She just recently moved to a new home with my little brother, and they had a little section of the gate in the backyard that was missing. So I told her, "Do you want this dog? Because I think this will have this dog could have potential to be a protection dog, for you and my little brother. But in the meantime, I'll keep her since you don't have that section of the fence until we fix it." So 2-3 months go by that I was able to go down there and help her build that little fence. But at that time, it was too late. I already fell in love with this little dog. So now I had a little stray. Looked like she was going to be big, but she ended up only being like maybe 25-30 pounds. But she was my little protector. I'm telling you, if we walked and there was someone creeping behind me, she turned around and she automatically was on a reverse guard. You know how they do that in training? They turn them around, they're walking backwards as you're walking forward, but they're guarding you at the same time. She naturally did that. And she would bark, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" So she'd turn and she'd walk backwards and she'd bark at these people. And I said, "Man, Maddie, you're so awesome." So very great protector with big dogs, small dogs, people. Always how showed her presence, right? So I guess just because how she was raised and in the situation she came from, she was just always on guard or protect mode. Um, so she was my little Madden. We named her after John Madden because we love NFL. So we had her, and so we took her over to Whittier where we were at. As I was a supervisor, I had a tattoo business at the same time, so to die for tattoo. And so I had a private studio, so a lot of people used to come over and, do Polynesian, um, Tongan, Hawaiian, skull, lettering, things of that nature that I specialized in. So I used to come over on Saturdays because I worked Monday through Friday. So I used to tell them, hey, the only time I can tattoo is Saturday and Sunday. But if you guys want to come in early, I'll give you an early bird special. I was always giving specials out, man, because I just wanted to, do it, get in, and spend the rest of my day with my family. So sometimes these tattoos would take 10, 15 hours. So we'd have to take breaks and stuff, especially the Polynesian tattoos where you have to draw it on the arm, right? Make sure everything's straight, the lines, and then you actually tattoo it. Where a regular tattoo is, you have a print, an artwork or whatever your client sends you or you draw, and you stencil it, right? So the stencil's already done. You place it on the client, and then you just trace it, right? And as you ink it. Where a Polynesian tattoo, you can't do that. There's no stencil in the world that actually put all those particular lines straight on that particular person, because every person has a different size arm or whatever they're trying to get. So the clients that I had, they were pretty big, and so I had to actually draw it. It pretty much took me about 4 or 5 hours just to draw an arm sleeve from the shoulder to the elbow, and then we started tattooing. So again, back to the dog with Irie. I was tattooing on a Saturday, and we noticed a little cyst or something on her chest, and my wife was concerned. So my sister-in-law came down, Georgie, and she well, my wife was asking me, hey, we need to take Irie to the vet. She's not breathing right. So I told her, Felicia, what do you want me to do? I'm in the middle of tattooing with a client. The client's here. It's not that I can postpone them or anything. They're already sitting in my chair and I'm tattooing. I cannot leave. I'm sorry. I wish I could. So she was a little upset with me at that time. But, what am I supposed to do? Just tell the client in the middle of the tattoo, stop? You feel me. So so she went with my sister-in-law. Luckily, my sister-in-law went with her. And unfortunately, my wife called back and said that our little dog had a heart murmur and she had to be put down. So that was rough. That was rough for Felicia, more than me, but Irie was a rough one. And so those hurts, when you feel multiple hurts, it gets to the point where you don't want to hurt. And you kind of distance yourself. Sorry, I had to pause it there for a second, but sometimes you got to distance yourself. And, you don't appreciate all the things that life offers you because, me personally, I tend to be a homebody. I like being by myself. I have everything in my home, my dogs, everything. Whatever I need to do, it's here. My computer is my whatever. So I tend to be a homebody, even though I was very social at one time. Always out, never home. I didn't watch any shows or anything like that. But as you grow older, you start putting life in perspective, and family and quality of life and balance. And And looking towards things and being around people that fulfill you in ways where um, you're not looking and hustling like for the almighty dollar, right? I mean, you still got to live, you still got to feed your family, you still got to do, pay the rent, or pay the mortgage, or pay the bills, or whatever you have to do. So you always have to do that. But you got to understand, uh, when I was growing up, my mom, since she was a single, mother and or a single parent, as I should say, when I was around 11 years old, especially going through middle school and high school, there was a lot of expenses, and a lot of times my dad wasn't there for that. He paid child support, but that's basically what he did, and my mom had to pay for all the others. So she used to tell me all the time, especially when I was around 14, 15, when I basically started getting into the workforce, which is corporate America. Because I've always worked, I've always, side hustled with my dad, did a little side work, concrete, whatever, mowing yards, doing little side things for the neighbors. But when I started actually working and I got my worker's permit, um, I went out to work, and my first job was Eric's Smorgasburg as a dishwasher with my neighbor. He got me the job, and it was a buffet, so they had a whole bunch of food at the end of the night. They would tend to throw all the food away, so we ended up taking it home. They let us take it home, shrimp, chicken, all kinds of stuff. So that was kind of cool for my first job. I was like, hey man, washing dishes at 15 and a half years old, and I get a whole spread to take home for my family. Whatever's left over, that's kind of cool. So that was a cool little job. But my mom used to always say, look, mijo, I can only provide you with the things that you need. All the extra things that you want, I can't get you. So you're going to have to go out and work for them in order to get the things you want. So, I took that to heart. At 15 years old, seeing all my friends, especially in Glendora, when you're raised around middle class, but you're going to school with all upper class, pretty much, kids that had parents that were well off. We always graded, our I don't know if you guys did this, but let me know in the comments. But we always had in the city what school you went to if you're a little richy, or how they say on the other side of the tracks, there was a statement or a saying back in the day, you come from the other side of the tracks. Well, that was the same. So I was below the tracks, right? And all my friends were above the tracks, Sierra Madre, above Alasta, all those kids that went to Gordon, not Gordon, Goddard Middle School, where us kids that were classed as, under, I guess, the railroad tracks, went to Sandburg. So as Sandburg and Goddard came together, we all went to the same high school, which is Glendora High School. And so, as me, seeing all these kids driving down Mercedes, Beamers, some of these kids, their parents own car lots and construction companies and built the whole town, and, all these things. It was just crazy. So anyway, but my family name was very big at Glendora because my cousins that grew up in Glendora, they were well known. They were very good athletes, all CIF wrestlers. Went to minor league baseball, MLB. So, I had a name to live up to when I got there. And so they used to always say, hey, you're going to be like your cousin, da-da-da-da, so I had to fill somewhat, some footsteps. And I had to be that much better, especially in sports. So I went to Glendora High School, and I lettered in a few sports, but football, baseball, soccer, track, those are my main sports. But I wish I would have stayed in baseball longer. I think I had a longer career because I've always played baseball since I was probably 4 or 5 years old. Same with soccer. But when I got into high school, I wanted to play football bad. And my mom would never let me play Pop Warner because she thought it was a little violent and thought I'd get hurt. And she told me always wait until I get into high school. So I did. So anyway, going back to the work thing, the work ethic, I always wanted more. So I had 3, 4 jobs. I worked at Home Base before it was Home Depot. I was an usher and then became assistant manager at a movie theater, Edward Cinema in Azusa. I worked at a clothing company called Clothing Connection. It was a surf shop. I worked at the Warehouse Music, if you guys remember Warehouse Music. It was right next door to the Clothing Connection, so it was easy. I just, boom, boom, worked 4 hours there, worked 4 hours there. And this was all during high school. I mean, I don't know where I had the time, but I was going back and forth, so my work ethic was just like that, and I wanted more. I was a kid that really, how do I say, kind of like shared his stuff with people, because I don't know what, I had a lot of friends, and I always was taught, if you have, you give, if you learn, you teach. So, whatever I made, I used to spend it on my buddies and my friends. Hey, let's go for pizza, my treat. Hey, let's go for here, my treat. Hey, the beer's on me, when I was that age. Whatever. It was just like that, during prom, homecoming, I wasn't one of the guys that, hey, let's all go in together, 5 guys, and pitch in and get a limo. Nah, I'm getting my own damn limo. So I had people pitch in to me if they wanted to get in my limo. But normally I didn't even charge them. I'd just say, jump in, let's go for a cruise, homecoming, whatever. So I was that type of kid. I worked hard for what I wanted, and all my neighbors used to say, man, every time I go to a different store, you're working there. So that was kind of funny to me. So I've always been like that. I've always been a hustler, having multiple jobs. And so, with me and my wife, Felicia, as we were growing, we had multiple companies, trials and tribulations. I got into management with a beverage company. She's still with the government, which is for the city, and she's still there, almost 20 years in. And I was probably, since college, I've always been into some type of industry where it was freight, logistics, warehousing, dispatching, driving, heavy machinery, things like that, that I learned, right? Forklift, backhoes, bobcats, big rigs, whatever. I drove it, I did it, I taught it, and as I grew, I started getting better, and then from that point I started teaching, and as you teach, you start getting into management. Some people don't like management. If you want to grow, you have to get into management, or you'll be complacent, or you'll cap out to where you're at in that field. I used to team build for beverage companies, manage their whole warehouse and infrastructure for their materials and ingredients, inventory, auditing, food safety, safety committee, auditor, internal auditor. I mean, I had so many hats when I worked for that company, but I learned. Eventually, I got headhunted for another beverage company, which is fermented tea, and I became a director, junior director for warehousing, restructuring their processes, their policies and procedures, streamlining their warehouse, eliminating errors, all these things that I brought to the table, and I was supposed to get support, but I didn't during the COVID period, during that 2021 period, and at that time I was breeding, and I couldn't do both because they required a lot to me because it was a new job, but my dogs required a lot from me, with time and energy and love and research and and foundation and training and all that good stuff. So I had to choose, during that time, and again, I was making 6 figures as a director. I was making a little under 6 figures as a breeder. during the COVID time, and I was about to have a heart attack. I was so stressed out. I was not getting enough sleep, and it was hard. So I was lacking, spread too thin at my job. So, we had a conversation where I was either going to get let go or I was going to quit, and because I was about to die, or they were going to give me more support, which they didn't want to do, and which I was fighting them since the beginning, and so my hands were pretty much tied. So I had to come to a realization of, is it all about the money or is it about the quality of life? And should I keep working to make a lot of money or do something I love, that I have a passion for, that pretty much was my calling since the beginning, that I grew up, and try this for a little bit and see how it works out. So my wife and I came to the decision that we're going to try it. No risk, no reward. I was going to try it for a year. If we can sustain my income, we were going to keep on going. So November of 2020 is when I left my career, corporate America, and I've been doing breeding ever since. Has its ups and downs, but I've stayed consistent. I have a following that has a lot of my dogs that really show my dogs, and that really, builds our reputation from trainers and breeders that do see us, that do want to breed with us, that do want our dogs, especially when you get into some type of higher clientele, which is like NFL, NBA, more professionals that actually have a large following that will promote you and your dog by naming you, right? So for me, what my success or our success is putting a lot into our first stud, which is Polydeuces. Spent a lot of money on him, spent a lot of time on him for the first couple of years. Top trainers, was getting a lot of exposure. I had a year waiting list for our puppies. So now that the economy is kind of slow, it hasn't been as good for breeders. There's a lot of restrictions now. A lot of cities are restricting breeding rights or having you be charged for each stud or female that you have. So there's a lot of restrictions, right? Unless you live in an area where I do, where it's kind of like BML land, and you have horses and sheep and goats and pigs, and I mean, you can have pretty much what you need to survive, and they don't really mess with you. So I'm not saying have 100 dogs here, but what I'm saying is I have 4 acres, and per acre I can have a couple dogs, right? So I do, and I love them. I wish I could have more. I wish I could have more animals, which we're planning on getting. Maybe some goats and some chickens for the future, especially like for our homestead, and so we're gonna try that out later. Maybe a horse. I would love a horse. It's my second favorite animal. So I just wanted to take some time. It's been a little while. I had to explain, from the beginning to now, to catch you guys up. But this is basically my journey from when I started with my dog journey to here, and I love it. I love my dogs. They're like my kids. Again, unfortunately, my wife and I can't have kids, so God has blessed us in different ways in having these particular 4-legged kids, right? And He blessed us with many of them. It's sometimes overwhelming, but with my management skills, my delegation experience, I break everything down into 15 minutes. That's just how I run my life. So every 15 minutes, I have certain things to do. I wake up at 4 a.m. Whenever the dogs wake me up, 3:30, 4 a.m. We start doing the puppies. We start, taking them out to eat, to train, to break, to go to the restroom, to get a little, wine, to get a little exercise in. And then, we do that for a couple hours. Right after them, I take out the girls, and the three girls, Artemis, Reaper, and Rain. And then we basically do the same thing. They don't eat though. They only eat once a day. The puppies eat twice a day. So the puppies eat early in the morning at 5, and then they eat again around noonish. So, um, so we take them out to break, the girls, and then I will take the boys. I will take Whiskey and Hero, and then I'll take Deuce and Cash. But the Frenchies will be with the puppies the whole time. So yeah, so they're all structured. They all have a routine every single day, day in, day out. They have an internal clock, so basically when it comes to a time, close to the time, they'll be barking, they'll be whining, saying it's my time. And as you guys know, let me know in the comments again if your dogs have you on the schedule. Sometimes they can control you. You'll be sleeping and you'll be like, oh, I'm gonna sleep in, but nah. You normally take them at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, but it's 6 o'clock. You might as well just get up, because they're not gonna stop. They're gonna bark and whine until you go over there and meet them and greet them and take them out. So by having them on a routine and structure, there is a little con to that. They do get a little routine, but remember, at the end of the day, they are your pet. They are an animal. You control them, right? By loving them, exercising them, feeding them good nutrition, good food. I always say shit in, shit out. So make sure, you feed your dogs healthy food. I don't care if it's a rescue from a mutt to a $20,000, $30,000 protection dog that you just bought. You do what's best for them that you can do, that you can provide. Everyone's different. If I was a little richer, I'd probably be feeding all of them raw, right? Having a butcher come out and chop their shit up and prepping it and doing all that good stuff, right? But I'm not. So I do what I can. I mix raw and kibble to maximize the efficiency for their health, their longevity, and for their look, and for the breed, for the preservation of the breed. So, all things in the glory of God. Remember that. He surrounds my life. I wouldn't be here without him. But there are things that are out of your control. And what I learned is only manage what you can control. Do not worry about the things that are out of your control. Because if you do that, you'll be worrying all the time, right? And that's just added stress that you don't need to. That's energy that you can displace somewhere different. Within my 35 years of management, finance, education, experience, I have a lot of knowledge. I was a county major, real estate minor. I've always had a good head on my shoulder, so I always comprehend things very easily. I can learn quickly. These Dobermans are 5th smartest dog in the world. Sometimes if you start training these Dobies, you'll find out that maybe the 2nd or 3rd time they're already getting it. That's how I am. I'm a Dobie, all right? You teach me, you show me the right way, let me do it a couple times, and I'll do it exactly the same way every single time for you, and probably find a way where I can streamline it and make it better. So I've taken all my work ethic, all my work knowledge, and pretty much instilled it into my breeding program. If you guys know, I'm always posting. I think I'm going to back off a little. I'm going to pivot, as they say, and do some things that are concurrent, that are lateral to the breeding game and the dog industry. We're going to do some things a little different. Again, we have Nemesis Creations, which is our t-shirt company now. We make a lot of apparel for us and others. We sell them online with Nemesis Creations. What's not, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, things like that. we're selling items, dog supplies, electronics, photography, apparel, um, memorabilia, sports collectibles. So we're doing a lot of that stuff now. So check us out. If you're into Halloween, check out my wife out. We're going to do a lot of Halloween YouTube videos on our decorations and the things that we buy. See if they're worth you buying them. If it's worth us buying them or using them. Especially outdoor ones, because they only last maybe for a season. I'm over here touching my dogs. I'm sorry. And I'm allergic too, so I'm always touching my face too. So we'll be coming on, giving you more content, different content, more guests on our podcast. We'll be start thinking about different ways to bring the love that we pride ourselves in our dogs, and our businesses, and friendships and family and things like that. Again, I never was someone to talk in front of a damn camera, but I'm getting more used to it, and as I do get used to it, I'm gonna master it, and I'm gonna bring you a lot more good content, and hopefully you guys can get a lot of value out of it. It was Nelson Mandela, one of my favorite sayings, that he said back in the day. He says, "We never lose. We either win or we learn." So if you keep that mentality and that positivity and that creativity, don't think when you're set back, when you are not at a good place in your life, don't think it as losing, right? Think it as a learning experience, that God has something better in store for you. When like they say, when one door shuts, another door opens. So He's building you for a better opportunity, right? So always stay prepared. Look for the signs. Never pass up a great opportunity. Take a chance. No risk, no reward. Money won is twice as sweet as money earned if you're a gambler. But don't gamble your life away, right? Make sure you always diversify. Stay focused on one thing until that one thing is mastered, and then move on to the next. These are just some things I've learned, some philosophies that I try to pride myself with, and it's helped me in some ways. So hopefully it helps you. If you're a little younger and you've never heard these things, maybe they'll help you. But if you're a little older, you probably know these things, and you probably instill them in your life. But let me know if this content, was helpful, or shedding some light on my background of why am I a dog lover, why I became a breeder, why I love this breed, why I want to keep on doing it, but just in a different fashion. Again, as society changes, we have to pivot in some ways and adjust. As a good Marine, you have to adjust and overcome. So, with the background, military, my family, my wife's family, service to the police, things like that. Respect your family, do good, help when you can, give when you can, donate your time when you can, be a good person, and and enjoy your pets. I think that's pretty much what I want to say, in a nutshell. But we'll be having some more content for you guys. It'll be a little more enjoyable, a little more comical, having some more guests on, and we'll be talking all kinds of stuff. So if you guys like to join us again, like I always ask, hit us up, DM us. My number is 562-639-3729. Give me a call. Let's set up a meeting. You guys can come here, or I can send you a link remotely, and we can talk about your story. Let's do it. Don't be scared. I was scared at one time, but now, I'm doing it more and more. Um, it's just, again, no risk, no reward, right? So if you got something to teach, let's share it. Come on, that's value. All right. A lot of people don't share that value anymore. They want to keep it to themselves. Share it.